We want to turn to some new developments surrounding Wednesday's deadly shooting at a high school in Georgia. Authorities have now arrested the father of the 14-year-old suspect. Colin Gray was taken into custody yesterday. He faces charges of second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and cruelty to children. Police did not offer many details other than to say Gray's charges are, quote, directly connected with the actions of his son and allowing him to possess a weapon. Two law enforcement sources tell NBC News Gray bought his son an AR-15 rifle as a Christmas gift last year. They don't know exactly when it was given to him, but around the holidays. Sources say it was after police interviewed the teen last year about those online threats. The teen had denied making those threats, and no arrest was made. Gray's son is accused of shooting and killing 4 people at Appalachia High School on Wednesday. He faces 4 counts of felony murder and is set to appear in court later this morning. 2 senior law enforcement officials say they have discovered evidence of the suspect's interest in mass shootings, particularly in the 2018 attack on the high school in Parkland, Florida. So, Mika, we sat here yesterday and wondered how a 14-year-old could get his hands on the guns. The father had said previously when the FBI visited the family about these online threats, he has hunting weapons in his home, but they are locked up and that his son does not have access to them. My gosh, Joe and Mika, after the threats were made, allegedly, he bought his son, 13 or 14 years old at Christmas time, an AR-15 style rifle for Christmas last year.
I mean, it is beyond shocking. And Katty K, we're starting to see this, obviously, and in this case, it seems to be what I said. We're starting to see is the arresting of parents, and it's about time. You have a 14-year-old child who is obviously has great mental challenges. The cops are calling him evil. His aunts or other relatives say this is a boy who basically was let down by his parents from the very beginning. And somehow the father buys this boy an AR-style weapon after he tells police he's going to keep guns out of his possession because of the threats they have already been warned of. I mean, it's very clear. I mean, it's very clear he should go to jail.
Yeah. The timetable of this and the fact that we know the police visited the home, spoke to the father, spoke to the boy, and then the father gave the son access to this AR-15 and access presumably to other weapons in the house as well, even though he said he didn't have unsupervised access to them, gives a very clear TikTok. I mean, maybe this is the direction America is going to go, to try to cut down on the number of children that the society seems to be happy with having killed in schools, because, wow, there's a certain amount of fatalism about trying to do anything else at the moment. And you hear it again and again from members of Congress and members of the Republican Party and members of the lobby groups that want to keep firearms in the hands of people that, well, we can't do anything. I mean, for a country that is so committed to trying to break barriers and introduce new technologies and do the impossible, when it comes to this particular issue, there is a, well, we wish we could, but that's life. That's the latest line. It's just a fact of life. And so maybe this is the only way the courts are going to manage to get around an extraordinary political apathy when it comes to gun shootings.
Well, it is a fear. It is fear from Republicans. And if anybody believes that gun safety laws or gun control has always just been practiced or fought by the right. You know, in the 60s, it was fought by the left. These things shift back and forth. The Republicans need to shift back towards a sane, a rational gun policy position. And if they did, Charlie Sykes, they wouldn't lose a lot of Republican voters. An overwhelming majority of Republicans support universal background checks. An overwhelming number of Republicans support red flag laws. An overwhelming number of Republicans support raising the age to 21 for people that are going in buying AR-15 style weapons. an overwhelming majority of Americans, I'm sure, would support enhanced background checks, more complete background checks for people, let's say, under the age of 30 that are going out to buy AR-15s. We look, and there is a line that goes straight through so many of these shootings, one after another, a disturbed young man, usually a disturbed young white man, buys an AR-15, and he goes and he shoots up schools, our movie theaters, our Baptist churches in Texas. I mean, you can go down the list. Sometimes it is older disturbed people who slaughter those attending a country festival, music festival in Vegas. But again, enough is enough, because I go to you because I know you grew up around hunters in Wisconsin. Yeah. I grew up around hunters in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Northwest Florida. They want this sort of gun safety law, and they're conservative Republicans.
This is American carnage. You know, Donald Trump is running on, make America safe again. Well, if you're an American parent, this is your great fear. This is the great American nightmare. And Joe, the point you were making is incredibly important, because I think that there is a real disconnect between what Republican politicians think they have to do because they're afraid of the NRA and what actual gun owners feel about all of this. Because you are absolutely right that, gun safety is not a left-wing idea. It is not a partisan issue. People want, especially hunters, understand the, how central it is to treat guns in a safe and responsible manner. And, what this is going to take at some point is for Republicans to stand up, turn around to the gun lobby and say, you know what, I'm in favor of Second Amendment rights, but we're not going this way. We are, in fact, going to go through some of the policies that you just mentioned. We're not going to turn a blind eye to this. We're not going to regard this shooting of children at school as a fact of life, as J.D. Vance said yesterday. But I have to say that one of the incidents that really kind of broke me on all of this was the massacre of the children at Sandy Hook. And after that, if that was not enough to sober up the country, if that was not enough to turn things around, what will it take? And I think that this is sort of this hanging nightmare. How long are we going to put up with this? What's going to happen? In this particular case, giving this deeply disturbed child an AR-15, a Christmas present, I'm sorry, I had this image in my mind of that Republican congressman was posing, in front of the Christmas tree with his whole family, and they're all holding weapons of, guns and automatic, semi-automatic weapons and everything, weapons of war. There's sort of fetishizing of the guns. At some point, that has to stop. We need to have a stigma, the celebration of this at the same time. Remember when the congressmen were wearing the AR-15 pins on the floor of Congress? I mean, what sick shit is that when children are being murdered in their classrooms?